In this video, we're going to illustrate how to map geographic information. So I have here a database that has high schools, it has middle schools, it has schools that Cal State Northridge uses both private and public schools. And so in this database, we want to be able to map the information. So we have to have some geographic markers here. So if you look at their street, city, and zip, those collectively would be able to peg a location. If we scroll over here, we'll also see that there's latitude and longitude. So latitude and longitude can also be used in this process. So the way we want to do this is we first have to convert this to a CSV file. Okay, a CSV is comma separated values file. And what that means is going to be a database which is in its rudimentary form. It's just text separated by commas and tabs. So if I download this first one right here, I'm going to download as a CSV file. That was the high school data. I'm going to click on the middle school tab, and I'm going to download that as well. So download the comma separated value file for middle school. So now these two here are going to be the CSV files that include both the geographic information as well as other school information. Now, I'm going to go to a resource called mymaps.google.com. And this is something which is a resource that's part of your Google account. And I'm going to create a new map. And on this map, I'm going to call this map here, schools in LA area. And I'm going to save it. Now, currently we have no data. We just have a map of the world. And what we want to do is we want to map this data. So the first thing I'm going to do is I want to put in the high school data. So if I click at this, I'd like to change the layer of the first one. So I click on the ellipsis and I say I'd like to call it high school HS. So now we have a high school layer, and now I go to import. So I click on the import, and down here I have now the CSV file that I can simply drag and drop. And what that's going to do is it's going to ask me for what kind of geographic information do we want to use. So I want to choose street, city, and zip. And so when I continue there, it's now going to ask me, what do I want to title the pegs with? And so I'm going to choose school. And that makes sense because that's the identifying feature. So we click on that, and it's going to go through the process now of finding the addresses for there. And there we have the schools. So now we have all of the high schools from our database of public high schools mapped. We now want to plot on here the middle schools as well. So this is going to require an additional layer so we can distinguish them. So I'm going to click on additional layer. And here I'll change the name first. So I'll rename this one here to call it middle school. So now we have a middle school layer. Now I'm going to import here, and I'm going to drag the middle school data. So I'm dragging the middle school data. And here we have the middle school data. And we're going to choose street, city, zip once again, and we're going to now identify it by school. So once again, we're importing some geographic information, and now it's going to layer on top of the others. The problem is that it's hard to tell what's what, okay, because there's so many here. So if I can turn off the middle school, there's the high school. If I turn off the high school, there's the middle school. Alternatively, or together, I can change the colors. I'm going to change the middle school colors here to, let's say, green. And now we can see that there's a layer of green overlaying the blue. Well, I can change that by turning off the middle school layer, and now I can see just the high school. So if I wanted to do a search for a job opportunity, and I wanted to know which schools to apply for, what I can do here is I can zoom in on the area of interest. So let's say I click on this, which is James Monroe High School. Here we are in Northridge. Let me go ahead and zoom in on the map a little bit more carefully there. So that's in North Hills, and right here at the Cal State Northridge campus, there is Northridge Academy High School. Let's say I wanted to add some information to one of these tabs. Like let's say I wanted to add information to Granada Hills Charter High School. So on this one here, I wanted to maybe make it distinct. I'm going to call this here let's call this a red tab because that might be a school of interest. But you notice when I do that, it changes everything in that layer. So that's not going to be a good way to identify things. I can also change the icon, and it's going to change everything for the entire resource base. What I can change individually, though, is I can put in a picture. So let's say I go ahead here, and I want to import a picture of Granada Hills Charter High School. So I'll type in there Granada Hills Charter High School. Do a search, and okay, there's a good picture. So I'll select that picture. That picture now is becoming part of my record. So part of this database, which has all of this information just in graphic form. So this is a database that now is in a different form than the rows and columns we're used to seeing. But I want to add some more pictures. So I'll put up there, and I'll choose another picture of Granada Hills since it's already up. And so let's go ahead and just see if there's, let's say, the track. Okay, so I'll put a picture of the Granada Hills track on there. So I can put multiple pictures at this point here. I can save that. And now that information, when somebody scrolls over it, they're going to read about Granada Hills. They can click right there to the Granada Hills Charter High School link because I've provided that link in. And now we can annotate anything interest. So let's say you're doing a job search, you could put your notes directly on your map and other information and so forth. So this could be a map for you to do your research in terms of where to apply for jobs. Now you can also add additional points to this. Let's say that I wanted to do something here that's relevant to my own teaching, which is I oftentimes take field trips up to the Mount Wilson Observatory, which is a very historic and still functioning research center atop Mount Wilson. So here's Altadena, where I grew up. Right above here is Mount Wilson, and we can see there's the Mount Wilson Observatory. I'm going to drop a pin right here where the observatories are. I'll call it Mount Wilson Observatory. Once again, I can look for pictures. So I'll say, where is the Mount Wilson Observatory picture? In this case, I could just look on my own photos. And so if I could type in there, Wilson, and let's see if I have any pictures of Mount Wilson, do a search, see if any pictures from Mount Wilson Observatory come up. And sure enough, here's a picture of me and my students at Mount Wilson Observatory. So that's mapped. Again, I can click another one right there, search while it's already up for some other ones. And here's some historic pictures of other people doing some of the research that's been done there at Mount Wilson. So now if I save that information there, that's going to be available to anybody else who wants to use this map that I provided. And again, I can provide other information, other tabs, but my purpose right now is I want to provide driving directions. So I'll click on directions here, and I'll say, okay, driving from CSUN, how would I get there? So I'm going to drive from Cal State Northridge. There's the map of the route, I should say, on the map to show me how to get to that location. So now I have annotated the map to include that as part of my map. So just reviewing, I can go back and I can click on the middle school layer now to show how the middle schools and the high schools all work together on this map. And I can do research in any area to both modify the pins, add new pins, subtract pins, and so forth to make the map my own visual database.